I think it's okay. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible. Good evening,
Okay,
ma'am.
let me.
Please share your PPT once.
Yes, I'm trying to. Is it available?
Yes.
Can you see it?
Okay.
Okay. So let me
Slideshow
just
कर देना होगा. Please
check
wait
the
for
other
a moment.
things. Hmm. Just tell me, sir, when you are ready. Good evening.
Okay, I'll tell you the 2 minutes more.
Okay, no problem. Please call after 1 hour, not now. Please call after 1 hour, not now, please.
Good evening, everyone. I welcome you all on behalf of Aryavarta Saudi School Complex. Today with us is Rama Chakraborty, ma'am, one of the most resource person in the country, and she is ready with today's assessment: what, why, and how. And can we start, ma'am? It is 1 minute.
Yes, sir. A very, very good evening to everyone
You
present
please
here.
please put it in slideshow mode.
A
Your PPT.
slideshow. Okay. Just tell me whether is it visible?
Absolutely correct.
Okay. So good evening to everyone present here. Good evening, dear friends, all the educators present here. Today we are going to start with a new training session, and a very big thank you to my brother Himanshu sir, and then respected Radhika ma'am and respected CB Singh sir, and all the other educators who are present over here. Today, our topic is a little, what I'll tell, it has a little weight. Assessment, what, why, and how. बात यह है कि फ्रेंड्स, जब हम लोग गाड़ी चलाते हैं तो क्या क्या चीज देखना पड़ता है. गाड़ी चलाने के टाइम वी शुड नो where should we reach. The destination should be clear. The goal should be clear. And while driving, you should also take care of your surroundings. The crowd on the road, the speed of the car, where there is risk, what you should do to avert the risk, all these are to be taken care of. Assessment भी वही है. मतलब क्लास में गए और पढ़ा दिए और ये सिलेबस है तो उससे तो काम नहीं चलने वाला है. And NEP also doesn't tell like that. So assessment is necessary. Assessment है रास्ता को देखना, ऑब्जेक्टिव को जानते हुए, गोल को जानते हुए रास्ता के बारे में सचेत रहना कि हमको कैसे गाड़ी चलाना है. बच्चे को ले तो जाना है, कहाँ लेके जाना है, लेके जाने के रास्ता में क्या क्या दिक्कतें आ सकती है और उसको कैसे हम लोग टैकल करें. That is assessment. Okay. So assessments are conducted for several reasons. Okay. So it provides, of course, feedback. It measures the learning outcomes. So while we are going through the PowerPoint, we are going to make these key words clear. Learning outcome, learning objective, क्या है, क्यों है. So providing feedback, measuring learning outcome, improving both teaching and learning process. That is what assessment does. And that's why even in your lesson planning, you cannot forget your assessment. Assessment is a part of your lesson planning because you cannot plan properly if you are not taking care of assessment. Assessment is for learning, assessment is of learning, sometimes formal, sometimes informal, sometimes at the end, sometimes during the process. But whatever we do in the case of teaching learning, we need to do assessment. So today we are going to talk about assessment. What means, what is assessment? Then why should we do assessment? What is the purpose and how it should be done? So let us go to the next one. I can see even now people are joining. What is happening? Why? This is the contents of the PowerPoint, contents of the presentation. This is the introduction to assessment. What is assessment? What are the types of assessment? Why assessment is important? How is assessment conducted? The challenges, the best practices, the future trends, and the conclusion, and so many other things. So let us start talking. So first of all, introduction to assessment. So what is assessment? It refers to the systematic process of, just a minute. Some problems are coming in between. A lot of, okay. So it is a systematic process of measuring learners' knowledge, aptitude, competencies, and skills, and it is generally used to measure whether the learning objectives of the course are being met or not. Assessment is, of course, valuable for the students, both the students and the teachers. And what are the requirements for the students? For the students, it provides feedback. Assessments offer specific information to the students about their strengths and about their weaknesses, and it helps them to understand what they have mastered and what they have not learned. And it motivates the progress. If the student knows that they are on the right path, so they are motivated. Then it supports self-regulation. It provides students with an opportunity to evaluate their own performance and take ownership of their learning. For the teachers also, it is very, very important assessment process. Why? Because it evaluates your effectiveness of teaching. Whatever you are doing in the classes, what is it effective? Are the students really learning? And it informs the instructions. It helps the teachers to identify the gap in student understanding and adjust their teaching strategies to better meet the student needs. And assessment also monitors the progress. In case of institution, in case of schools, colleges, there also it's very, very important to have good, continuous and effective assessment, because assessment measures learning and progress. It identifies the learning gaps again. It sets the standards. Okay. So without assessment, you cannot set the set the standard of your school. So assessments are used to establish and maintain performance standards for students and the programs. So it's very, very important for us to have proper assessment and to know about the tidbits of it. Okay. Now, importance of assessment we were talking about, but in between we had some keywords, na? Learning objectives and learning outcomes. We are talking about the gap of learning objective and learning outcomes. So we must know what are these. Okay. So learning objectives are actually specific instructor focused goals for a course, while learning outcomes are the specific, measurable, and observable results from the learner's perspective. तो एक है आप कहाँ गोल सेट किए हो एज अ टीचर, एंड when we are talking about the learning outcome, तो बच्चे कहाँ पहुंच पाए पढ़ने के बाद, आपका वो जो गोल आप सेट किए थे, वो गोल पे आप निशाना पे तीर लगा कि नहीं. ओके, दैट्स योर लर्निंग outcome. So objectives are what the instructor intends to teach, and outcomes are what the students are able to do or has learned as a result of the teaching learning process. So objectives guide the teaching and content creation. You are setting the goal, while outcomes are the demonstrated skills and knowledge that show the objectives what have been met. तो एक तो है क्या हम करना चाहते हैं, और लर्निंग आउटकम बोलते हैं क्या हम कर पाए हैं. ठीक है. So, while talking about this assessment, we have talked about the knowledge, the skills, the aptitude. What are these? These are the things what assessment actually measures. Assessment से measure करते हैं हम लोग कि ये skill, knowledge, aptitude, ये सब कहाँ तक हम लोग मतलब shape कर पाए. So what is knowledge? Knowledge is an awareness of facts, a familiarity with individuals and situations, or a practical skill. And knowledge of facts, also called the propositional knowledge, is often characterized as true belief that is distinct from opinion or guesswork by virtue of justification. And what are skills? Skills are the abilities, knowledge, and expertise that allows a person to perform a task effectively. Type of skills can be hard skills, can be soft skills. Hard skills are very specific. They are teachable abilities that are often technical and can be quantified nicely. For example, operating a machine, or software proficiency, or uh, knowing how to run the computer. Okay. So these are some hard skills. And what are soft skills? These are personal attributes that are harder to measure but are essential for interacting with others and succeeding in a work environment. Those are soft skills. Okay. And what is aptitude? नॉलेज स्किल तो हम लोग मेजर करते ही है, एप्टीट्यूड भी मेजर करते हैं. एप्टीट्यूड क्या है भाई? एप्टीट्यूड एक्चुअली, aptitudes are natural ability, or you can tell talent, to learn or perform a certain task or activity. That is actually aptitude. It is an inborn potential that can be developed through learning and training. So these things are actually measured in case of assessment. Importance of assessment we have already discussed, but once more from this slide, assessment reinforces instruction by determining the accomplishment of goals. मतलब फिर से तीर निशाना पे लगा कि नहीं, हम लोग तो सोच लिए कि ये लर्निंग ऑब्जेक्टिव है, ये हम लोग जब पढ़ा देंगे बच्चे ये जान जाएंगे, तो एक्चुअली हुआ कि नहीं? तो that is, it reinforces the instruction by determining the accomplishment of goals, and it is a device that aids conscious inspection of the teacher's methods of imparting education and the student's ability to learn the same. How the teacher is teaching. Is it effective? Are the students learning? Is there a learning gap? What is to be done? Okay, so to reshape, replan, restructure your teaching, that is what assessment does. And the second thing, the constantly evolving world demands much more from the student than the basic sciences, basic arithmetic skill, basic languages. No, now they are need to be trained. They should know how to think critically, how to analyze things, how to make a decision, how to win the challenges of tomorrow. So there are so many life skills that they are to be trained with. For this purpose, the alteration and modification in the method of imparting knowledge and training skill, that's what is the importance of assessment. And for the students also, assessments give them an opportunity to develop their ability to evaluate themselves. When you are doing assessment every day in the class, after the lesson, in between, as your revision test, as your quiz, or some or the other activity, what you are doing, you are the giving them a clear understanding of what they have learned and where they stand. So the authentic implication of methodical assessment, it helps the students a lot. They develop the skill and they keep check. They get the ownership. Okay. Next is formal versus informal assessment, because I have told that the assessment cannot be formal all the time. So there are some formal assessments and there are some informal assessments also. Okay, let us see what are they. So formal assessments are structured and standardized tests used to evaluate learning, while informal assessments are unstructured methods, such as it can be oral question, it can be observation, it can be discussion, and all these things, this informal assessment actually gauge understanding in a more relaxed setting. मतलब बच्चे को टेंशन नहीं देना है, पढ़ाते पढ़ाते थोड़ा सा ये पूछ लिया, थोड़ा सा कुछ काम करा लिया, एक रिडल दे दिया, एक क्विज करा दिया, दैट इज इनफॉर्मल असेसमेंट. और बच्चा विदाउट टेंशन, बिकॉज जैसे ही एग्जाम बोलते हैं ना, बच्चा का टेंशन हो जाता है. So without the tension, we can go for informal assessment, and we should go for informal assessment. It's a part of our teaching learning process every day. It should be, it must be actually. Okay. So let us know what are these formal versus informal assessment that we have already discussed. Now, assessment and evaluation. ये दोनों भी हम लोग बहुत साथ साथ use करते हैं, these two words. So what are the difference? Assessment actually, it is a process of collecting and analyzing analyzing the evidences, the proofs the proofs to or the documentation to measure and evaluate the learning progress and the achievement of the students. Okay, so this assessment can take various form. I have told already na about formal and informal. So there can be test, there can be oral questioning, there can be quiz, there can be projects, presentations, portfolios, and the primary purpose of assessment is to provide feedback and support the improvement of learning outcomes. बिकॉज हमने बोला ना प्रोसेस तो हम लोग करते हैं, प्रोसेस करने के टाइम जो गोल सामने रहता है वो मेरा लर्निंग ऑब्जेक्टिव, लेकिन लर्निंग आउटकम प्रोसेस कर देने के बाद बच्चा कितना सीख पाया, दैट इज लर्निंग आउटकम। उसके बीच में गैप को जितना हम लोग नैरो कर पाएंगे उतना बेटर लर्निंग होगा। सो असेसमेंट इज नीडेड throughout. It helps identify the areas where the learners are understanding properly, and there are some areas where they require further development. When you do it, actually, you are reshaping your teaching and you are becoming a better teacher every day. It's not only needed by the students, it is needed by we. It is needed by us, the teachers, because without proper assessment, we never know where we are heading to. And what is evaluation? It is, of course, a systematic process. That is the process of collecting and analyzing data to determine the effectiveness, quality, the impact of educational program, the policies, intervention, and it involves examining the outcome, of course, the processes and overall performance of the teaching learning system, and evaluation. After evaluation, इवैल्यूएशन इस शब्द में ना एक वैल्यू छुपा हुआ है। तो यू आर नॉट ओनली मेजरिंग द इफेक्टिवनेस, you are not only gathering the feedback, but here you are getting some data with some value which can be utilized for your betterment. So the primary goal of evaluation is to assess the extent to which the objectives have been achieved and provide an evidence-based recommendation फॉर प्रोग्राम एनहांसमेंट। ये जो प्रोग्राम चल रहा है, क्लास में हो, कॉलेज में हो, जहां भी हो, ये प्रोग्राम कितना इफेक्टिव है, या अगर इफेक्टिव नहीं है या कहीं गैप रह गया है, on the basis of the value which we have gathered by the process of evaluation, by the analysis of the data, we can make our future learning better. Okay. So this is what is the difference between assessment and evaluation. We have already discussed about the meaning. What is the meaning? We all know that is assessment is the process of collecting, reviewing and using data for the purpose of improvement in the current performance. And evaluation is the act of passing judgment on the basis of set of standard. And in case of assessment, we can tell that its nature is diagnostic, and in case of evaluation, the nature is judgmental. And if you want to know about what it does, the assessment provides feedback on performance and areas of improvement. And in case of evaluation, it determines the extent to which objectives are achieved. What is the purpose? Assessment is formative. Of course, there are some summative assessments also, but generally it is formative in nature. And in case of evaluation, it is actually summative. Okay. And if you talk about the orientation, assessment is generally process oriented, and orientation is for evaluation, the orientation is product oriented or outcome oriented. And in case of assessment, the feedback is based on observation and positive and negative points. In case of evaluation, it is based on the level of quality as per set standard. When you talk about relationship between parties, assessment is reflective. It gives a reflection. The students can reflect क्या क्या हमने किया और क्या करना चाहिए. Teachers also can reflect on it. But when we evaluate, the relationship is prescriptive. मतलब ये सही नहीं हुआ और सही नहीं हुआ तो क्या करना चाहिए उसके लिए प्रेस्क्रिप्शन दे देना. And criteria, it is set by both the parties jointly, and in case of evaluation, it is set by the evaluator. That is the basic difference. Now, when we were talking about types of assessment, we have already told about the formal assessment, the informal assessment. But in case of assessment, it can also we can also tell of the types as diagnostic assessment, formative assessment, summative assessment. Diagnostic, हम लोग डॉक्टर के पास जाता है तो फिर जाते हैं तो डायग्नोसिस होता है on the basis of certain tests and their values and their results. The doctor does the diagnosis. मतलब कहाँ डिजीज है ये बोल देते हैं. तो डायग्नोस्टिक असेसमेंट क्या है? दे आर एसेंशियल टूल्स फॉर आइडेंटिफाइंग द स्टूडेंट स्ट्रेंथ्स एंड वीकनेसेस बिफोर इंस्ट्रक्शन बिगिन एंड दे कम इन वेरियस फॉर्म्स. बहुत तरह का डायग्नोस्टिक असेसमेंट होता है. प्री टेस्ट होता है, क्विज हो सकता है, क्वेश्चनर हो सकता है. थोड़ा थोड़ा बहुत हम लोग डिस्कस करेंगे. प्री टेस्ट क्या है? फॉर्मल इवैल्यूएशन एडमिनिस्टर्ड before unit of instruction or got students prior knowledge on specific topic. मतलब लेसन शुरू शुरू करने से पहले उनका प्रीवियस नॉलेज क्या है उसको जानने के लिए जो हम लोग क्वेश्चन करते हैं, या तो छोटा सा एक मतलब पेज में एक कुछ क्वेश्चंस आंसर करने के लिए दे देते हैं, कुछ ऑप्शंस पूछ लेते हैं. दिस इज प्री टेस्ट. मतलब वेयर डज द स्टूडेंट स्टैंड, उसका मतलब स्टैंडिंग कहाँ है, कितना वो जानता है, उसके बाद और कितना बताना पड़ेगा, या तो उसका बेसिक्स में ही गड़बड़ी है, उसके ऊपर हम लोग को काम करना पड़ेगा. दैट इज diagnostic assessment. Okay, that is also a very very important thing. There can be quizzes, short criteria reference test that assess students understanding. स्कूल में जैसे हम लोग भी करते हैं कि कुछ भी आप करिए, suppose you are doing a specific activity or you are doing some presentation, whatever you do, after that you should always go for quizzes, because then you are doing a ready assessment. क्या बच्चा सीखा, क्या बच्चा याद रखा, क्या बच्चा का स्किल में डेवलपमेंट हुआ, you can know by using this type of diagnostic assessment quiz. Great tool for you. Then there can be surveys, there can be questionnaires. These tools collect information about the student's interest, their previous experience, their self-assessment, and they can provide insight into students' knowledge and help tailor instruction. मतलब आपका कोट को किस साइज में कटना है ये आपको पता करना है. तब आप सर्वे कर लीजिए, क्वेश्चनर कर लीजिए, एंड उसके बाद यू जस्ट शेप योर learning, I'm sorry, teaching plan. Okay. And entry forms, that is simple documents completed at the start of a course, that is also just like the pre-test. तो entry form भी आप use कर सकते हैं. There can be observation, where teachers can observe the students' interaction in the classroom to gain insights into learning styles. And there can be checklist. These are systematic tools that has some specific skills or criteria to judge. There can be one-to-one interview. You can engage in conversation with students, or the students can mutually converse with each other, and that allows the teacher to understand what are the individual challenges, to build rapport, to provide deeper insight. So all these things are diagnostic, and they are not very formal, but some informal types of assessment. What is the purpose of diagnostic assessment? भाई आप अगर बीमारी नहीं जानोगे तो दवा क्या प्रिस्क्राइब करोगे? तो डायग्नोसिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. नो, इट्स नॉट लाइक दैट यू मतलब 10 दवा दे दिया तो जो लगे. नो, you have to be specific. So the purpose of diagnostic assessment is to identify the learning gap. Diagnostic assessments help pinpoint specific area where students are struggling. हो सकता है as a teacher, I could not teach it properly, or the way I have described, I have analyzed, it was not proper at their level. So you need to know where is the learning gap, and then to inform the instruction by understanding the students' previous knowledge and their learning gap and their misconception. the teachers can actually plan their future teaching strategies. And then setting learning goal, मतलब आपका जो ईयर के एंड में आप जो गोल रखे हो वो तो बहुत दूर का गोल है ना, एंड दैट इज एक्चुअली कवर्ड बाय स्मॉलर गोल्स, smaller learning objectives that you are setting every day. So to set learning goal, these assessments, these diagnostic assessments can help establish realistic learning targets. भाई हमने मतलब क्लास में जाके बहुत बड़ा बड़ा प्रॉब्लम लेके काम शुरू किया, बिकॉज माई लर्निंग माई टीचिंग ऑब्जेक्टिव इज लाइक दैट, बट आई शुड नो वेयर द स्टूडेंट स्टैंड. So we have to be very, very realistic and practical in setting our goals. So how to set the learning goal that can be actually planned by this diagnostic test, and by utilizing a variety of diagnostic assessment, the educators can create a comprehensive understanding of the student's knowledge level, and ultimately they can lead to more effective and personalized instruction. There can be some student who cannot who are not actually efficient in doing their calculation. अगर उससे आप सोचोगे कि मतलब उससे 90% मार्क्स कैसे हम लोग लाएंगे, पहले तो उसका जो बेसिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग है उसके ऊपर काम करना पड़ेगा. वी हैव टू वर्क ऑन देयर concept level, and we have to just actually know about their learning gap. So diagnostic assessments actually help us to do this. Before prescribing कि आपने ये करो, पहले जानना है कि स्टूडेंट का जो वीकनेस है वो कहाँ है. ओके. Now, formative assessment. Formation means to build up something. So, formative assessments are what? These are ongoing evaluations. Ongoing means it can be every day, it can be at the end of the lesson, it can be maybe at the weekend, it can be at the end of a month. There can be different types of formative assessments, and these are ongoing evaluations, and these are used to monitor the students learning and to provide feedback. While summative assessment, they evaluate students learning at the end of an instructional unit. Okay, so first semester examination, मतलब 6 महीना जाने के बाद स्टूडेंट कितना सीखा उसका इवेल्युएशन हो गया, दैट इज अ समेटिव असेसमेंट. बट जब ऑनगोइंग प्रोसेस में करते हैं, दैट इज फॉर्मेटिव असेसमेंट, एंड दिस टाइप ऑफ असेसमेंट इज कंडक्टेड ड्यूरिंग द लर्निंग प्रोसेस. Its primary goal is to monitor how the student is learning, what the student is learning, and to provide the ongoing feedback. And that can be used by the instructor also, that can be used by the student also, to just improve their teaching learning process. जैसे पहले ही हमने बोला, फॉर्मेटिव असेसमेंट बहुत तरह का हो सकता है. क्विज हो सकता है, क्लास डिस्कशन हो सकता है, एग्जिट टिकट्स हो सकता है. There are so many ways of formative assessment, and we the teachers must know about the different ways. The ways of formative assessment which will be actually enjoyed by the students, and they will also learn where they are standing and they can improve on that. Okay. Summative assessment, अभी अभी हम लोग चर्चा किया. Method to used in education to evaluate students learning at the end of an instructional unit or period. For monthly examination, monthly assessment, monthly summative assessment, it may be 6 semester summative assessment, it can be the annual or yearly assessment. So after a learning instructional unit or period, it's a formal assessment. Of course, it cannot be informal, and it occurs after a period of learning, such as maybe a completion of a project, a unit of study, or a course. And it's not like formative assessment, which aims to provide ongoing feedback to improve the teaching learning process. इसमें क्या होता है? It focuses on measuring the overall learning outcome and achievement of student. डेली का क्लास में क्या हो रहा है, कितना इस लेसन का सीखा, ये समेटिव असेसमेंट का काम नहीं है. एक इंस्ट्रक्शनल यूनिट के बाद कितना स्टूडेंट सीख पाया, दैट इज समेटिव असेसमेंट. एंड दे कम इन वेरियस फॉर्म्स इंक्लूडिंग स्टैंडर्डाइज्ड टेस्ट. स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन क्या है हम लोग चर्चा करेंगे. देन फाइनल एग्जाम्स, इट कैन बी फाइनल प्रोजेक्ट्स, इट कैन बी essays, it can be presentation, And these assessments are designed to measure the extent to which students have mastered the learning objective and standards set by the curriculum. The result of summative assessments are often used to assign grade or score. बोलते हैं ना कि this student has uh, achieved A plus grade in all the subjects. तो हम लोग grade assign कब करते हैं? Summative assessment के through. Or we can give scores. 95% मिला. How? और कितना percentile है? So you are assigning, you are giving some grades or scores to the students, which are then used to evaluate their academic performance and progress. That is summative assessment. So the actually terms are very much clear. The summative matlab sum up karna, and formative means during the formation what you are doing. That is formative. So formative versus summative assessment. Let us see the comparison. So formative assessment, it occurs during the learning process. Summative assessment occurs at the end of the learning process or a learning unit, not on after the learning process always, after the learning unit maybe, or instructional unit maybe. In case of formative, it allows teacher and students to pivot their strategies midstream. मतलब on the way कैसे maneuver करना है उसको बोलते हैं formative assessment. In case of summative assessment, it provides a final evaluation of the knowledge and skills. कितना नॉलेज एंड स्किल स्टूडेंट को मिला, कितना वो अचीव कर पाया, उसके ऊपर समेटिव असेसमेंट अपना फाइनल वर्डिक्ट सुनाते हैं. Formative assessment identifies areas for improvement, and summative assessment is high stake testing that often involves ranking of students. In case of formative assessment, it gives an opportunity for the students and also for the teachers to implement the feedback. On the feedback, they can work and they can improve their teaching learning process. In case of summative, it provides the students with a grade. पूरा साल के बाद 6 महीना के बाद आप इतना कर पाए, आपका जो अचीवमेंट है that is 90% of the final thing. Okay, that is your summative assessment. So assessment, again, these two are very, very important terms: assessment for learning and assessment of learning. The words are self-explanatory. Assessment for learning, or AFL, it's a teaching approach that generates feedback students can use to improve their performance, or teachers can also use to improve their teaching. From a teacher's perspective, this assessment for learning, for मतलब किसके लिए, लर्निंग के लिए जो असेसमेंट, लर्निंग की इंप्रूवमेंट के लिए जो असेसमेंट, दैट इज असेसमेंट फॉर लर्निंग. ठीक है. एंड असेसमेंट ऑफ लर्निंग, लर्निंग हो जाने के बाद कितना लर्निंग हुआ है उसका असेसमेंट है असेसमेंट ऑफ लर्निंग. ठीक. सो AFL इज often immediate, and it also informs the changes you can make to your lesson straight away to make it more effective. This is assessment for learning. It's an ongoing process. It actually gives feedback. Both you and your students can use that feedback to improve the teaching learning process, and this feedback includes information on how the students are learning, how much the teaching is effective, what is the progress of the students, what is the nature of their understanding, what is the nature of the concept formation, any difficulties that they are having, what are the learning gaps, and what is the benefit of this assessment for learning. Again, I told the assessment for learning and assessment of learning. This is ongoing process. So this is proven to give students more control over their learning. कितना सीख रहा है, कैसे सीख रहा है, कहाँ गैप है. So they can use this data. It helps them, it helps to boost motivation in the students, and ultimately they get the ownership of the learning process, and it improves their exam performance. And the benefit for the teachers get the insight into the students' level of understanding, concept formation, and this helps the teacher to support the students to progress. You would you'd know what are the gaps, and there you have to work on that gaps. तो अगर आपको पता है कि मेरे ये जो स्टूडेंट है कहाँ उसका वीकनेस है, उसके ऊपर आप काम करोगे. एंड दिस दैट इज व्हाई इट इज कॉल्ड असेसमेंट फॉर लर्निंग. लर्निंग के लिए असेसमेंट. And the second thing is assessment of learning, AOL. It helps the teachers to check how well the students have understood a topic. Okay, what is their actual achievement, that you come to know by comparing their performance, their learning goals. And this type of assessment, this is also summative assessment, assessment of learning, because it is at the end of a particular period of time. And this is simple and clear feedback. It helps the students to understand what they did well and what they need to improve. What is the characteristics of this assessment of learning? Of matlab kitna सीखा uska assessment. Understanding the key characteristic is important for teachers when using it to assess students' progress. It gives you endpoint evaluation. It is high stakes in nature, and these outcomes often have a big impact on students' final grade or academic records. And these results can affect their promotion to the next level. It can influence their career opportunities. है ना? अगर आप सोचो कि जॉइंट एंट्रेंस में जिसका ग्रेड ज्यादा है, ऊपर है, तो उसका तो देयर आर मोर चांसेस दैट ही और शी विल गेट द ब्रांच व्हाट शी और ही इंटेंड्स टू गेट, और अच्छा कॉलेज मिलेगा. तो ये हाई स्टेक नेचर की है. एंड दिस असेसमेंट्स आर फेयर, they are very standardized, and they actually reflect what the students have learned, what is their achievement. Okay. एंड बेनिफिट क्या है? अकाउंटेबिलिटी. अकाउंटेबिलिटी होना ही तो चाहिए ना. वट एवर यू डू दैट शुड हैव एन अकाउंटेबिलिटी. क्या करना चाहते हो, कितना कर पाया. असेसमेंट ऑफ लर्निंग हेल्प्स hold both teachers and students accountable. So in today's teaching learning process, it's not only the students who are to be blamed for their uh, poor grades or lower achievement. Both the teachers and students are equally accountable. So when you do this assessment of learning, it shows how well students are meeting the learning goals. For you, for the educators, it helps your an insight, and it will help to highlight the areas where your teaching methods are not very effective, and where your teaching methods are very effective, and what you need to do. It identifies strengths and weakness, and these assessments give you a clear view of the students' achievements, strengths, and weaknesses, and how much they have succeeded. Okay. So when you are comparing the assessment of learning and assessment for learning, so next time you should not confuse between the two. Assessment of learning checks what has been learned to date, till date, and assessment for learning checks learning to decide what to do next. Assessment of learning designed for those not directly involved in daily learning and teaching. An assessment for learning is designed to assist teachers and students with very valuable feedbacks to reshape or replan their strategies. The assessment of learning presents a formal report, maybe in the form of report card, grade sheet, or something like that. And in case of assessment for learning, it is used to respond to the students' work and in conversation. Assessment of learning usually summarizes formation into marks, scores, grades, percentiles. In case of assessment for learning, it uses detailed, specific, and descriptive feedback. And this is in relation to the criteria that has been said. In case of assessment of learning, it usually compares the students' learning with other students or their standard for a grade level. And in case of assessment for learning, It usually focused on improvement and compared with the student's previous best and progress towards a standard. Assessment of learning does not need to involve the student, and assessment for learning, of course, it involves the students and the person most able to improve the learning. Now, I have told that the summative, in case of summative assessments or formal assessments or evaluation, you should go for standardization and balancing of the questions. Now, we should know what are these. These are very, very important things. Standardization and balancing of a question paper are processes designed to ensure that assessments are fair, reliable, and valid. They should accurately reflect the intended learning outcome and covering the syllabus comprehensively. Okay, so this involves a structured framework to guarantee consistency in quality and assessment across different students and institutions. So standardization, when we talk about it, okay, these are the processes, standardization and balancing. These are processes designed to ensure that assessments are fair, reliable, valid, accurately reflecting the intended learning outcome and covering the syllabus comprehensively. हम लोग blueprint बनाते हैं ना, we use the blueprint, we tell the students about the blueprint so that they can be prepared properly. So when we talk about standardization and balancing of question paper or assessment papers, assessment instruments, that involves using a structured framework to guarantee consistency in quality and assessment across different students and institutions. If all your questions are very tough, all are hots, then your weak students cannot answer. So it will not be fair, it will not be reliable, it will not be valid also for them. So you need to standardize. You need to standardize in the context of question paper. It should refer to creating a uniform and consistent assessment experience for all students, and it should ensure consistent marking criteria among evaluators. Okay? So this is what is standardization. Key aspect क्या है? Uniform parameters. It establishes just too much of shared guidelines for question setting, the language to be used, the formatting to create a level playing field. Level playing field means it should be uniform parameter. Consistent marking should be there, equivalence should be there, a quality control should be there, which will implement peer reviews, moderation. After you make the summative question paper, you should always go for peer review and moderation. You should involve other teachers of the same subject or the same class, and you can get their views and reviews, and then you can go for moderation process to check the items for their relevance, clarity, and adherence to quality standard before finalization. What is balancing? It ensures that it provides a comprehensive and fair assessment of a student's knowledge and skills rather than focusing too heavily on a narrow range of students or narrow range of topics or cognitive abilities. ठीक है? तो key aspect क्या है? Testing the blueprint, comprehensive coverage of the entire portion, ensuring that the paper assesses all the key topics and all the learning outcomes, and it should have varied difficulty levels, incorporating a mix of questions with varying difficulty levels. Like easy question, it can be approximately 30% for basic recall, basic understanding, and basic concepts. There can be moderate or middle level questions, approximately 50% for application, for problem solving. Okay, and then there can be HOTS or difficult questions, approximately 20% for analysis, evaluation, creation. That is higher order thinking skills or HOTS. तो आप अगर सारा हॉट्स दे दोगे या तो सारा इजी क्वेश्चन दे दोगे, सारा मॉडरेट क्वेश्चन दे दोगे, then your assessment is not balanced. It's not fair. It's not comprehensive. Okay. And so the diverse question types also should be there. Multiple choice should be there, short answer type, long answer type, essay based, source based, statement based, to assess different type of skills and to reduce the bias towards a specific format. And there should be alignment with cognitive levels also. Okay, and this framework also will be dependent on the Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's taxonomy में जैसे धीरे धीरे थिंकिंग स्किल में हम लोग ऊपर जाते हैं ना, तो नॉलेज से शुरू करते हैं बेसिक, देन नॉलेज, अंडरस्टैंडिंग, एप्लीकेशन, एनालिसिस, इवैल्यूएशन एंड क्रिएशन. सो आवर क्वेश्चन लेवल्स will be also going from the lowest level to the highest level, and what will be the proper percentage that is actually told here. Okay, now assessment. So far we have told assessment evaluation purpose. I don't think that this is to be told again what it is. Assessment is ongoing process, evaluation is summative and judgmental, focusing on the final outcome, and we have already talked about the difference of their features, the purposes, the nature, the focus, etc. and etc. Now, when today we are talking about NEP and other things, we should talk about the competency based assessment, competency based education. That's very, very important nowadays. Okay, so competency based assessment, no, it is actually a very modern approach that evaluates a student's ability to apply specific skills and knowledge in real world scenario. एनईपी का वही गोल है जो रोट लर्निंग है उसको रिमूव करके, unlike the traditional method that often emphasize memorization and standardized testing, competency based evaluation actually focuses on demonstrating mastery of particular competencies. ठीक है, तो competency क्या है? It's the student's ability to apply knowledge and skills rather than just memorizing the facts. And as education has evolved, we know that the competency of a student, the student's ability to apply the knowledge in real life situation is to be assessed. So our assessment should be competency based. The total education also should be competency based. So this shift is essential. Okay, focusing on practical skills and competency, that's a must. So whenever we are making a question, of course, it has to be standardized, it has to be balanced, but then it has to be competency based. The teacher should be very, very clear. If I am giving this question, what particular type of competency I am going to judge, I am going to assess here. Okay, when we are going to do that, then the entire system will be competency based and it will actually go for this holistic learning. Okay, then there are some examples सीबीएसई क्लास 9 के पोर्शन से कुछ कुछ मैं कोशिश की कुछ competency based question देने का. So here are some examples. जैसे साइंस में एक टॉपिक है force and laws of motion from physics. So when the question type is going to assess the problem solving and real world application of this particular topic, the competency which is to be assessed is application of scientific concept in real life or problem solving or logical reasoning. जैसे in this question it is asked, a student is riding a bicycle and applies the brake suddenly. The bicycle stops, but the student continues to move forward and falls off. Which of Newton's laws of motion explains this phenomenon? I am not asking what is the first law of motion, which is the traditional question. So we are asking in this particular scenario, which of the Newton's laws of motion can explain this occurrence. So explain your reasoning with respect to the situation. So you are actually assessing a competency where the student whether the student can apply the scientific concept in a real life situation. So it becomes a competency based question. Okay. Now let us see the next one. This is on the topic tissues of biology. if the teacher wants to test the competency of understanding the relationship between structure and function, and they can analyze things. The question is, a person suffers a major injury to his spinal cord. I'm sorry, there's a grammatical mistake here. The doctor explains that certain tissues responsible for transmitting messages between the brain and the rest of the body are damaged. Name the specific tissue that was damaged. Okay, we are not telling that what is nerve tissue, what is its function. Uh, so we are giving a situation and we are trying to find whether the student has understood the relationship between that particular structure and the function, and if they can analyze. So how would this injury impact the person's daily life? So if the student can answer it, that particular competency of analyzing things can be judged. Okay, from maths. This is from the topic polynomial. Okay, the competency to be judged is applying algebraic concept to solve problems or critical thinking. Example, a polynomial is divided by x minus 1. The quotient obtained is 3x cubed minus x square minus x minus 4. The remainder is minus 5. Determine the original polynomial that meets these conditions. So, इसमें क्या हुआ? The students' competency to solve problems and to think critically can be judged, can be assessed. So, this is another competency-based question, you can tell, assessment. For English, the language and literature, here also we can actually make certain type of questions to judge or assess different type of uh, just a minute, different type of competencies. Okay, so here there's an example. The competency to be judged is inference, evaluation, analysis, all these things of text. So read the following extract. The local council has announced plans to build a new community park in the west end of the city. The park will include playgrounds, a dog park, and picnic areas. Okay. The project is expected the project is expected to be completed by next summer and aims to provide a recreational space for families and individuals of all ages. The question is, what is the primary objective of the new community park project? So here we are going to judge or going to assess their analytical power, analytical competency. Based on the tone of the announcement, what can you infer about the public's likely reaction to this plan? So here you are talking about inference and evaluation. So all these types of different types of competency based questions can be made to judge or to assess the different types of competencies of the students. And when we do so, when we are clear about our questions, about the instrument of our assessment, then the evaluation or the assessment will be actually giving us proper feedback about the learning gap, about the weaknesses, about the weak points of students, and then we can actually work on that, or we can plan our future future way of progress. Okay, so these are uh, some ways of competency based questioning. We can actually do it. It needs a little practice, but we should be clear what are the competencies to be assessed and what way we can frame question in a different way so that it is not a traditional way, and so that the students are not motivated for very traditional rote memorization or rote learning, or they can be motivated for connecting their learning to the real life situation, to their practical situation, and so that they can be better human beings and all round individuals who will be able to live their life properly Actually, that is our ultimate goal. Na? When we talk about this learning, this education, we all talk about, we tell about holistic education. So that is not possible if we are not talking about this different types of assessments, and we don't know about uh, the different ways of assessment, their importance, and the way we should set our question, the way we should standardize and balance them, and the way we can use them for improving our teaching learning process. And not only that, we can shape our students in such a way that they become actually better in their life. So whatever we are doing, we should know what we are doing, for what we are doing, and how we can make it better. So with that, I come to an end. Happy questioning and happy assessment and happy evaluation. This is not something which we can just neglect, and we have to take it with us to our classrooms and to our total teaching learning process to make it a better experience for the teachers and for the students and for the entire community. So that's all from my side. I come to an end of this like uh, today's presentation. Hope you have liked, and hope the keywords are clear to you. Sure, so you should know about formative assessment, summative assessment, assessment, evaluation, knowledge, skill, aptitude, competency, uh, assessment for learning, assessment of learning. These keywords should be clear in your mind, and we all are uh, good teachers. We want to be better, we want to be the best, and for that, assessment can be a very, very handy and important tools for all of us. Thank you. There are some participants who are waiting in the lobby till now. I don't know how, but till now, 4 participants are there waiting in the lobby. So, sir, with your permission, sir, I think you have to unmute yourself. We cannot hear you. Thank you, everyone. I have got so many motivating comments. So that's great for me. After the entire day, when we sit for training, so whatever is our learning goal, that should be achieved. Himanshu, sir, I think the questionnaire, the quiz is already shared in the group. So you need to answer the questions, because the learning is to be assessed again. After anything, after any process, the learning outcome is to be achieved, is to be assessed, and what is the learning gap is to be diagnosed. So here also the quiz is very, very important. Sir, should we come to an end? We cannot hear you, sir. Please unmute yourself.
Hello.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Now it is audible.
So thank you for this enriching session. It was really a wonderful session. We learned a lot with respect to the assessment, and there had been new insights, of course. And I'm very sure that the participants would also have felt that way. There is no such queries, I think, in the chat box. So on behalf of Aryabhata Sahodaya School Complex and our founder chairman, sir, president, madam, uh, deputy training coordinator, Simple ma'am, and all other office bearers, enriching participants, it was a really treasuring experience with today's session. So I thank you once again, Rama ma'am, for such
Thank
a
you,
wonderful
sir.
session.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, and we have already shared the link for your attendance and feedback, requesting you to please complete your part by 6:15 today. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much once
Thank
again.
you. So with your
We can
permission,
now
may I
leave.
leave?
Yes.
Thank you, Simple ma'am. Thank you, Radhika ma'am. Thank you, CB sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
And a very good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.